the exercise that they would have liked to put their foot on the pedal on the way home, but a win is a win, and they're hard to come by in the NFL. The Eagles having no such issue. 4-0 to start on the heels of a Super Bowl. Back in studio, Joe Musso alongside Lige Douzable. Deuce, this is a team that, again, we talk about standard. We hold to a high one in Philadelphia. They get a win over a team that usually presents some sort of issues. What's your major takeaway from this latest victory?
I love how the secondary for the Eagles, we talk about Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, how they tackled in space. They were so physical in this game, especially to start off that first half. The Bucs could not move the ball anywhere up and down the field. So kudos to those guys as well. And you talked about it, the offense, right, being a little bit more inventive. Kevin Petula, that was the question going into this season, Moose. Like, he had never called plays before, and we saw him be extra conservative the first couple of weeks. By script last week, they had to open up the offense because they had a massive lead they had to try to come back and win. In this game, you saw a little bit more wrinkles. You saw the shovel passes to Dallas Goedert. And with Jalen Hurts, he didn't have, crazy, outrageous numbers, but efficient with the football, throwing it where he needs to throw. Todd Bowles likes to blitz. He knew exactly where to go on third down, and man coverage got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith going. So I love the balance on offense, and we're starting to see Kevin Petula getting rhythm, calling plays for his playmakers.
Let's stay on the topic of numbers, because Saquon Barkley's this season have been subdued relative to the 2,000-plus that we saw a season ago. 19 touches, or totes, for 43 yards on the ground, specifically a touchdown in this one. We saw a wrinkle off of the tush push. I want your thoughts there on some effective play calling, but also in the slow start, for lack of a better term, for Saquon this season.
I think a little bit has to do with how much he carried the ball last year. I think they're trying to take some carries off of him because the end goal is Super Bowl. You want the Saquon you saw throughout the playoffs. People tend to forget. He had a chance to get the record, but they sat him week 18. But I think that boded well for him in regards to how well he played in that stretch run throughout the playoffs. So if you're looking at this and you're Nick Sirianni, you're like, we got to take some carries off of Saquon early, right? We want him to build back up like he did last year. That way, when we need to lean on him throughout the playoffs, we can do that.
22 of 40 for 289 and 2 touchdowns for Baker Mayfield. Going to want to be further north of 50% completion. But my eyes go to the defensive side of the ball with this Buccaneers team. Where are their biggest inefficiencies right now? I know it's always going to be a tall task to slow down an offense that has as many options as the Eagles do, but where did they come up short in your eyes?
I think there was a combination, right? And crucial situations, situational football on third down. They struggled to get off the field at times. Todd Bowles sent some pressure, man coverage on the outside. We saw Jalen Hurts continuously be able to move the ball down the field. So when you look at it, like, box score-wise, just like they didn't give up a ton of yards, but it's those situational football scenarios where you have to be able to get off the field and win. And then special teams. We talked about it earlier, right, Moose? Special teams is special for a reason. If you allow a team to score in a third phase, it's really hard to overcome that.
All right, back on the Eagles here for a moment, because if you're trying to dangle a carrot out in front of yourself, staying motivated, they're not a team that, from all that I saw preseason and what we've seen early in this season, that lacks any such carrot out in front of them. But they check a box here because this is a Tampa Bay team that I know Eagles fans sort of look at a little differently in the challenges they've presented before. How do you continue to do that if you are a team that executes at a championship level to find that new ghost to chase?
To me, it's the leaders in your locker room. And I think Jalen Hurts coming into this season talked about it, right? We're not even thinking about last year's Super Bowl. Nick Sirianni, whether he was telling the truth or not, Moose said, we're not going to watch when they put the banner out there opening week, right? We're on to this year. We want to win this year's Super Bowl. We're not thinking about last year. So I think when you look at the leadership in that locker room, when you have Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Lane Johnson, who is banged up right now, those guys have played at the highest of levels, and they know what it takes to get to another Super Bowl. So they're not thinking about what happened last year. They're focused on being the best version of this Eagles team to win another Super Bowl.
4 for 4 in attacking that task. Another win here on the road against the Tampa Bay Bucs. More to come on CBS Sports HQ. Taking a look at Jalen Hurts' past 18 games, started and finished. A perfect 18-0. How's 3,200? About 800 on the ground. 24 passing, another 21 on the ground. He's doing everything his team requires, and it keeps leading to victory. Games and the lion's share coming in this last 3 weeks. Amon-Ra St. Brown matching Calvin Johnson and Herman Moore for the most touchdowns by a Lions receiver through the first 4 games of a season, with 6 already. In studio to assess this one, Joe Musso alongside Lige Douzable. Deuce, I'm looking at the numbers for the Lions here because it's an impressive defense for Cleveland. We've seen that week time and again. 277 total, 4.9 per play. You get a touchdown in the third phase, but still 34-10 coming off of what by their standards isn't the most explosive game. What do you make of it?
Moose, the score isn't indicative of how this game went. You talked about it. The third phase, special teams gets a punt return. Also on defense, you get a score. Let's not forget the DJ Reed interception. He gets tackled at like the 4-yard line that sets up a touchdown for Amon-Ra St. Brown. So a great defensive performance by the Lions. Now, you talked about this Browns defense isn't talked about enough because the offense struggles so mightily, but that Browns defense got after it. I know there were some headlines with John Morton, the offensive coordinator, saying, well, Myles Garrett hasn't seen our run game. And besides Jahmyr Gibbs, the Cleveland Browns showed up and they mitigated the run. I believe they gave up just over 100 yards rushing and it was less than 4 yards a carry. So they did what they needed to do on defense. You can't turn the ball over at that clip and expect to win games.
We're looking at Jared Goff, who's completing 73% of his passes coming into this game, finishes of 16 of 27 for 168, 2 touchdowns. You know, that offense is going to want to be more explosive, more efficient, but I'm looking at the Browns right now and trying to figure out what's your why. You look at the defense and it offers you hope that you can flip some tables, move some chairs, as you like to say, and make some noise, but should the intention of this team right now to be find out what you have at quarterback? Is it time to see one of the rookies?
It's time, and I thought they should have started off playing some of the younger guys, right? You have 2 rookies, one you drafted in the 3rd, one you drafted in the 5th. It's time. Joe Flacco came out in my class in 08. And Moose, we were both looking at the TV when he threw that interception on a throwaway and saying, what are you doing? Yeah. You've been in the league entirely rumbling from the fans. They want to see what these younger guys can do. This Browns defense has kept them in games. Even the blowout loss to the Baltimore Ravens, that wasn't indicative of how that game went either. The Browns defense showed up. So you were saying, Moose, if you're a Browns fan, you're leaning on saying, we have a championship type defense or a really good defense. Why not see what these young guys have? Because we're going to be in a position with 2 first-round picks to potentially go get our guy next year if we don't have that current guy in the locker room. But the only way we can find that out, Moose, is if the young guys play.
Let's flesh it out one further. Do we go full JV split squad? Do we let both get reps? Do you have a name in mind you want to see first?
I think you have to roll Dylan Gabriel out there first just because that's how it was in preseason. He was the backup quarterback. He was efficient throughout preseason. Yes, I believe he only played in the 1 preseason game, but he looked really good in his time going out there with the offense. So I roll him out. But I'm like you. I'm JV it. Give them half and half. Right? If we have 14 games left or 13 games left, give them 6 and 7 games apiece, right? Now, again, if one quarterback goes out there and plays really well, you stay with the hot hand. But if he goes out there and struggles like most rookies do, why don't you see what the other rookie has as well? Because, again, with the draft capital you have, if you feel like you don't have the guy of the future in your locker room, you have that ammunition, go get your guy next year.
We saw it this week in New York. Let's find out. We'll see if it is time for those rookies in Cleveland as the Lions win 3 straight and improve to 3-1. All right, a look at the offensive excellence of the Detroit Lions. 137 points through 4 games, and that was after a slow start against the Green Bay Packers. It is the 2nd most through 4 games in franchise history.